And that one there, John proposed. And the John proposed. And I'll just say to it. Sure. Yes. You can give it to me. Give it to me and I can melt it down. I'll just say the council was our rate. We'll talk about that, but so we don't get into a debate. I'll say our rate was in reduced because I'm not sure. Right. Okay. Okay. Could I first welcome everybody and thank you very much for coming. It's nice to see that we've got interest, and particularly with the community board. So I do welcome everybody. Thank you. Welcome to the staff and to Steve and to my fellow board members. We've got quite a big agenda, so we will start into it straight away. Apologies. Do we have any apologies? We're actually all in attendance, so that's okay. Is there anybody which wants to bring up amongst the board notification of any extraordinary business? Is this a bit loud, or am I just making it loud with my new earphones? It's okay. All right.
Super new earphones.
It must be the sound. Okay, so there's Kelvin.
Yeah, I've got 3 items of extraordinary business if they're not covered by the agenda as it goes.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
John?
May I ask what 3 items are?
Yeah, sorry, yes. Oh, there's a 4th. No, there's 3 actually. Package 4 of the RMA consultation, whether we should put in a submission or not. The speed consultation that is due on the 6th of August, I believe. And then the other one was Lydia's letter, which I think is in her report anyway, so that one's probably covered. But it was just to clarify if we as a community board are putting on submissions on package 4 of the RMA consultation and the speed consultation as well.
Thank you. John? Yep. That's it. Right, thank you. We'll bring that up under general. Correspondence, Steve. Is there anything there that you wish to bring up?
No, all the correspondence is attached within the existing exec report.
That's the one regards to the Darfield High School.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Thank you. We'll cover that under the agenda. Public forum. We'll move into that. We've got the Kerwee Residents Association. Nari, are you ready now? Have you got a chair there, Nari, beside you? You've got one there. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, you'll have to speak up because while I've got a new hearing aid, it's not as good as the last one. So it's just on lead. So I just didn't quite hear I'm going to get on.
I'm used to him. We've got roadworks going on in Kerwee, and I think it's water pipes they're putting in. But what I want to say is that the residents where the actual works are going on, they were not advised themselves. They put a notice at the garage, and I know one lady went round there and she said she couldn't read it because she didn't have her glasses on. You're right? Yeah. And I know there was someone was walking up the footpath to go onto their property, and they were told to use the other side of the road. And they weren't asked, what they were doing there. He said, use the other side because there's roadworks. And Oh, there's people who are coming out of drives and they're driving the wrong way when the traffic lights are on green, like someone actually came at, we were going along on the green light and someone came towards us. So, I mean, that's not very good, but the fact that these residents weren't advised, and surely there could have been a letterbox drop or something done. And I've been told that they are moving into School Lane, and I mean, that would be chaotic because that's where the school is and the daycare. Yeah, yeah, so I'm just having a wee look here. Yeah, I only had noticed at the garage. And apparently, I believe there was one on the Selwyn District Council page, but not the Kerwee community page. So I think that could have been done a bit better and advised the residents.
Yeah, Steve,
That's
would
all.
you like to make comment?
Yeah, look, sorry to hear about that, no. And what I'll do, so I think this is the first time I've heard of this. So what I'll do is I'll go away and I'll let through the Kerwee Residents Association, we'll pass on that feedback and I'll try and get a response back as quick as we can
Thank you.
about the next stage of works for you to share.
Yeah. Well, our next meeting's not until 18th of August, and I thought it's too long to wait. Yeah, especially when it's happening there. Oh, one other thing too. At the weekend, they still had the lights going. Surely, one side of the road's blocked off with cones, but surely they could take those cones away and turn the lights off at the weekend to let the traffic through.
Let me find out and I'll
Yep,
come
cool.
back to you. Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Cool.
Kelvin,
Thank you, Nari, as usual, for bringing this forward to us.
just stay there, Nari. Just stay.
Yeah. Just hold on. I haven't really got a question for you. Don't panic. But just thank you again for bringing this forward and for supporting your community, because it's really important that council knows about it as soon as possible through the right forums. And I'd just like to ask council to make sure that they communicate by all channels possible when there's some works going on in a local, small, rural area. We need to use post in letterboxes. We need to use the web, yes, and we need to use even messages on Selwyn alerts, but also signs on people's driveways who don't know whether to turn left or right. And those traffic lights, I mean, we've had the speed restriction on Whedon's Ross Road for the last week, 3-4 weeks, with no explanation of what it is or anything. That's just one of my routes that I use. So I think it's a good indication that we could just improve our communication from council to local people right there on the ground. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
All right. Is there anything else, Nari, you want to make comment? Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, you were booked in for public forum. Does anybody else wants to bring anything forward to us in the public forum? Right, we'll move on. Confirmation of our last month's minutes, please. Somebody prepared to move? John, seconded Charm. Are there any alterations or any amendments to those minutes that have been circulated to us? Any matters arising that are not covered in the agenda? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Would just like to say that in relation to the Rewe Alley Memorial commemoration, that it's good to get advance notice for the 15th of August. So thank you for the Sister City Committee and their clear communication and getting that invitation out, and also to Board Member Payne for assisting in that. And also in relation to the Sheffield swimming pool, there's a public meeting there for those that don't know on the 14th of August at 6:30 p.m. to update people. So if you've got any questions or want to know more about it, put that in your diary. And that's it. Thank you.
Any further comments on that? If not, then I'll put the motion that we accept the minutes. All in favour will please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. That's okay. Okay, actions from that meeting. Now we've got some council staff here to answer some of those questions.
Yes,
Steve?
if I may take the lead on this while the team find a microphone. Just want to thank you for the questions from our last meeting. The overviews in the subject heading are the summary of the question, and the team have provided a response back. Now, the first question on the action report is dealing with development contributions, and we've provided an attachment for that, but I've also provided the expert to talk to it because this is definitely not my technical area of expertise. But happy to, if we start with that conversation, and if you're comfortable, then we can let Pete and Sarah stay there, and then we can deal with the rest of the action. So, Peter, do you want to just give a quick overview of the development contributions paper that was attached?
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks. So the development contributions paper shows different DC catchment areas. So for water and stormwater DCs, we break it down into the Springston, Ralston, Malvern and Ellesmere areas. Whilst for reserves and community, we break it into eastern, northwest, southwest. Roading DCs are split more within eastern, non-eastern, and then our sewerage is done at a Selwyn-wide level due to how interconnected the whole system is. For the year to date, actuals in April, we've currently spent a balance of 24.8 million more than we've collected, which compared to our budget of 11.8 million that was expected. The main difference in this is due to our sewerage DCs, where the rate just over doubled from the previous period, but a lot of DC requests came in just before we swapped over to this new rate, which means that our calculations were based on receiving a lot of these new HUIs and payments based on the new rates, which were then pulled forward into the previous year on the old rates, which has left us at a deficit at this time. In total, from the year-to-date balance, we're sitting at an $8 million positive balance across all of our DCs, with sewerage DCs on a whole sitting at a negative 27 million, whilst our reserves are sitting at a positive 37 million. DCs in general, you'll see our balances go from positive to negative depending on what stage we're in during the DCs. So as we collect DC revenue, they're then spent on projects, but sometimes due to the immediacy and need for growth, we'll have to start those projects before we've collected the revenue. In those instances, our DC balance will go negative and then slowly recover as we collect the DC rates. Sometimes if it's in the positive, it's because a lot of development's been done, but we haven't gotten to actually doing the growth works yet. So it's not inherently bad that our DCs have never necessarily gone negative. It's just to what degree and at what stage we are in collecting them back. Are there any major questions?
Yeah.
Malvern?
Thanks, Peter, for bringing this report to us. I just want to understand primarily one thing at the moment. This is you tracking the DCs that we've spent because that development's happening, and the DCs that we've received. But how are they based on? You send out an invoice, do you? Or that's the first step, but you'll probably see where I'm going next.
Yeah, so when resource consent is requested, once it's been approved, the rates are calculated, how many HUIs to charge, and then an invoice gets sent out.
Yeah.
And we track those invoices based on those catchment areas that I mentioned earlier.
Okay, so, but what the DCs that are received or requested and then received. What they don't necessarily relate to is the actual cost of the infrastructure required for that development, or is there a real calculation on that?
So there is a real calculation. So during the time of building up the LTP, what we do is we look at what our current DC balances are, and then we look over the next 10 years or 30 years in some respects, and we say, okay, what is the growth required over the next 10 to 30 years? And we say, this is our current balance, this is the expected cost of the next 10 to 30 years of growth, add that together to give us our total. Then we say, okay, how many Hueys are going to be produced through this growth? Hueys are how we kind of identify the weight of growth onto our resources. So one bathroom in a house might be considered a single Huey in relation to sewerage or water usage or roading. So we take the total cost that we expect over those 10 years, divide it by the total amount of Hueys, but as per the growth over those 10 years, and that gives us our base rate. We then say, okay, what is the interest on that? If we have not gathered enough, then we are incurring interest costs, which need to also be recovered through those DC rates. So those get added on so that we're also recovering the interest. If we're in the opposite position, like reserves, where we're actually in a surplus, then the interest we would gain off of that surplus gets deducted on those DC rates. So that's how we kind of come to that DC rate, is we calculate the growth that's occurred, the growth yet to come, and divided by how many DCs we think will be applied for throughout that period.
Okay, yeah, what the crux of my question is, let's say we have a new subdivision going in and, 5 years ahead of when it does actually happen, and we charge, let's just put a number on it, 100,000 DC contributions for maybe upgrading the network, including the water, which is one of the main ones. So we've charged 100,000, but 5 years later, when it's actually put in, it costs Selwyn District Council and us as ratepayers 200,000 to put that water main in. Is there a relationship between those two and trying to claw it back or not?
So for one thing, we currently review our rates every 3 years. So every 3 years, we're trying to make sure that that next 3 years is as solid as possible so that we don't end up in that kind of position. We also do put inflation on the expected costs as well to try and catch that kind of growth as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sian?
Thank you for your presentation. My question is there a plan to recover the deficit for undercharged DCs, and if so, how?
So we're limited in how quickly we can react. Currently, our DC policy allows us to change the rates at the start of each LTP period. We're currently going through a process to review what changes could be made to our DC policy, and we're looking at options available. The other part of it, the issue is also that based on the RMAs, when a resource consent is applied for and given, they then have 5 years to do the work and can possibly get a 3-year extension on that. So rates that were set, if they're doing work in years 7 and 8, the rates were set 5 to 8 years ago. Even if we've changed them and updated them since then, trying to catch up on that extra growth can be tricky. So we're currently looking at what our options are, whether, can we shorten that time period? Do we need to build in extra fat into the assumptions when we're trying to see how much we're going to need to recover over this, but at the same time, trying to balance it with what can actually be done through the level of resource that can be done through that time. So the answer is we're a bit limited. So we can't, like when asked to forecast when we expect DC revenue to come in, that all depends on when these resource consents come in from subdivision work. And we're quite blind to when that is. We know some of the more recent ones, but out 6 months plus, it really depends when they're going to apply for them. So we're looking at options now, and I believe at the next finance and performance meeting, there'll be a PowerPoint presentation presenting some of those options.
Calvin, you have another question?
Yeah, I've got a future question. This one is, so I'm not expecting an answer right now. But I understand that the government are putting through a new development contribution system through around the end of the year and they're going to be called development levies. So I'm obviously just asking the question that we, as a board and council, be kept informed of how Selwyn District Council will be reacting to that, because we need to sort that.
Steve.
No, that's a great point. And obviously, development contributions and the future development levies play a significant part in funding the growth of our district. So it's really important that we pay attention. We'll certainly be bringing that back to the new board as soon as we get that information to share where the council's at and also where the officers' advice at to engage the community board and so you can then pass that on to the wider community that you represent.
Okay, are there any further questions to Peter? John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The engagement that I've had is that there's no dispute that Selwyn's the fastest growing. It's been the fastest growing for a few years and it's likely to be. And just trying to formulate a response that it would seem to me, or maybe a little bit simplistic, but the overall goal, that the reason it's the fastest growing is because the developers look around us and our neighbours and they see that they can make the most profit by developing in Selwyn. And it just seems to me that maybe there's merit in thinking of being a little bit more proactive and speedy, because over the last 3, 5, 6 years, we've been the fastest growing, everyone's known that, but there hasn't been the same speed on updating and responding to the development contributions policy, working within the parameters set by Parliament.
So,
Peter?
what was the question?
So the question is there a time frame? And I know there's legislation in the pipeline, but it seems to me that there needs to be urgency and action now, because if we wait for government, we could have a change of government and then we could be back to three waters.
So option at the next finance and performance meeting, options are being presented to the councillors in terms of what we can do and where our focus should be to improve that.
Yeah, and I'll add to that too. I think the message that we received from the government and Minister Bishop at the last LGNZ conference was actually that the change is quite significant, and so we're going to weigh that up. What we don't know is actually what is going to be the new legislation in relation to this, and until it's gone through that process of legislative development and then approvals, we're kind of a little bit in the guesswork, but we got a really strong indication that it is going to change. So yeah, I hear what you said, John. We're also looking at it really quickly to try and anticipate the number of changes we're going to have to deal with, not just in this piece of legislation either, as you know.
Lydia?
This might not necessarily be a question. Is that okay? It's more adding some context into this when looking at the report here, and I guess just making the board aware of some outcomes that may happen. And so Peter touched on the timing of consent, which is a bit of a constraint for us and how developers, when they put their resource consent in. And so when we set the community DC reserve in the long-term plan, there were resource consents put in for Darfield before that clicked over. And so actually the project that we had in line for the indoor sports facility was to be, I think it was 47% DC funded. There's now big implications in that because the resource consents went in before we could actually claim the community facility aspect of them. So that is why you'll see a huge deficit in the Northwest community reserves from what we actually budgeted to what we actually have. So there's going to be some implications for that project. And talking about DC levies, my concern is the way that levies are looking is they might be ring fenced around the towns that the development is happening in. And that's all well and good, but at the moment we capture it in a ward as such, or in an area base, and we can spread that out across our district. My concern is if those levies are ring fenced into the development those towns happen, it could be a bit of a detrimental effect to some of our smaller townships, especially in Malvern when we have so many small townships dotted around. At the moment we can spread the DC, but yeah, it'll be interesting. So the devil will be in the detail, but that's why I think, and it's great that we're having these options brought forward, because we can't afford to wait until 2027 when they're talking about DC levies.
Peter, do you want to make comment on that at all, or?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any other questions of Peter at this stage? If so, if not, I thank you most sincerely for coming, Peter, and addressing us. Now, the rest of the actions, I'm going to hand over to Steve for some of the answers that's on our agenda.
Yeah, I thank you, board. Sorry, thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, board members, you'll know that we've put a little bit more context into our answers in this time, so I'm just happy to take questions on the remainder.
Any comments, Charm?
This is on the actions. Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned at the level of detail that's been provided back in regards to the financial allocation of the Heartlands funds. It's very broad and too high level, I think. But I won't continue to go on about it through this channel. I'll find another mechanism to try and obtain that information. Thank you.
Lydia?
Yeah, mine was actually on the Heartland funding, and I found it quite interesting reading that. And so I did the breakdown of the total cost, and so just over $50,000 spent on community and economic development team, and I found that particularly interesting, considering if we're looking through initiatives for youth, aging population, and economic development, we already have $1.3 million for strategy. And then we're using 50K of the Heartland funding to deliver those as well. So to me, that seems like a little bit of double dipping. For a bit more of a crass way. And then just on the Tawara Community Trust, John had already brought up, there's a dive into details on the 14th of August, and everyone is welcome to come along and hear progress on the pool. And I do know, just a wee update on what is happening there, the final site survey is happening this week. The survey is just to really make sure that we have surveyed that correctly for it to go off to LIMS for amalgamation of titles.
John?
Yeah, just in relation to the final item, I just personally believe that in progress is a cop-out, and I think there should be further specific information, because to my mind, provide feedback to the council that the Ubitsu sister city relationship falls under the community board or the council seems like a yes or no. And I would hope that people in the council could provide a yes or no instead of an in progress.
Thank you. Steve?
Yeah, I might just reply to that one. Thanks, John. Look, I think this is actually a case of when the paper and the information actually goes to council, rather, because there's no question we'll reflect the feedback from the community board back to that. It's just a case of timing, as I understand it.
Mr. Chair, may I make the suggestion that maybe the paper is going to the council at such and such a meeting, and that would at least be clarifying.
Sian?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in response to Lydia and her concerns in regards to where some of the Heartlands funding is going to. Lydia, is there a process within council to look into the Heartlands funds, or is that outside of the councillor's realm of influence?
Lydia?
I think the answer that you'll get back is that it's operational. Although I agree with you in the fact that we shouldn't be double dipping and having $1.3 million in strategy funding aside for the same outcomes delivered through Heartland. So I think it's something that you should definitely keep pushing.
Thank you. And just for context, the reason I'm concerned about this is because we do not have sufficient social services in Malvern. We don't have any at all, really. And so I would like to see the Heartlands Fund, the purpose of it being rural and isolated communities, being utilised for rural and isolated communities and not being utilised for resources within HQ or Te Aratia. Thank you.
Okay, is there any further comments? Okay, can we, nothing further you want to bring up, Steve? Right. If that's the case, can I move on now and put the motion that we accept the minutes and the actions that have happened so far? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Financial report. Now, do you want Sarah to do or just to Sarah to do that for a start? Sarah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll take the report as read, but I'll just talk you through quickly the highlights. So as you can see from the table that you've been provided, the end of year result was $12,000 better than forecast. So that $12,000 falls back into your surplus to be spent in future years. The key savings for the last financial year were vehicle expenses were much lower than the budgeted amount, so there's savings of $8,000 there. Also, there were savings in advertising, training, and also a small saving, well, a 1.7K saving on members' remuneration that was due to we budget before we actually find out what the local government determination is. So that's what attributed to the savings for the year. Any questions?
Questions? John?
On the page where the summary is provided, the year-to-date operating expenses was by difference, is that $14.06?
No, sorry, there's a comma there, but you're right, there's a full stop too.
So 14,000.
Yeah, so as you can see in the report, 14,000.
John?
At the last meeting, I believe the board approved a draft budget for the 25-26 year. Have I missed seeing a draft budget being provided at the July minutes?
With the minutes,
I mean, my personal expectation was that there would have been the draft budget included in the minutes so that now we're into July, we can see what our expenditure is, because my understanding is that having discussed and agreed at a board meeting the proposed budget, it needed to go back to council for their approval and then come back to us.
noted. It's on this occasion, I think what we've done is we've worked with the board to establish what is the proposed operating budget within the context of year 2 of the long-term plan. The recommendation is what's been captured in the minutes is the approval, which set that number. And then it's not common to then bring back the detailed budget through to the board again, because the minutes and the recommendation have dealt with it. the next time you see that will be at the August meeting, and that will be your first month's worth of operating under the new budget structure. And so in that sense, because we also didn't, as you recall, we talked about the consultation or the lack of with the annual plan. We didn't go out and reset the targeted rate. We've made some other shifts within the operating budgets to enable that targeted rate to stay the same for the residents of the Malvern community. And we have found other savings to afford that drop in the internal charge. And so that's all been done at the operational level. So we'll report back a variance to that budget. And I think that's the best way that we can bring it. So you'll see the detail on the next agenda. It'll be part of your financial reporting from that point on.
Sarah, do you want to make a comment further? You're right, okay. Is there anything else, Lydia?
This is great year end. Are all the accounts in? So have you got any unexpected accounts to come in yet? And specifically vehicle expenses or kilometres charged, because members still have 3 months to charge those back. So we're going to see any big changes to this, or are you?
We did ask all members to get their vehicle expenses or their total expenses in for the end of the year, so they could be included in the June results. But yes, as you say, if there are additional vehicle expenses that need to come through, the year has officially closed for 24-25, so those expenses will hit the 25-26 year.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
There is one wash up left to do, which is the ACC levy, but that's very minimal. Yeah.
John?
Again, my personal opinion would be that if board members haven't got their claim in by the closing date, that the closing date has passed and the board members should wear the costs.
Right, is there any further comments? If not, if somebody be prepared to move Sarah's report, please. Thank you, Phil. Seconded, Lydia. I shall put the motion. All in favour? Against? Carried. Again, Sarah, very many thanks for your contribution, and to you also, Peter. Thank you. If you wish to leave, you're welcome to stay, but if not, thank you again. Now we go back to your report. Yeah, in front here. We move on now to Steve, your executive director's report, please.
Yes.
Just interrupt. Have we got any spare agendas or not? You didn't B-poll? Have we got any? Perhaps let the people have a bit of a look. At this stage, we're up to page 18, 19, page 21, are we? Oh, mine can't be in the same order as yours. Okay.
Right, I'll
Steve.
I'll lead off, and I'll give Mark some time to wander up to the table because he's going to be my superstar for this report. No, I think he can go down so you can ask him a question. So look, firstly, there's a volume of information attached with my report this time. The first attachment is the local government elected members' determination, which sets the remuneration for both council and the board. So you've hopefully had a chance to read and digest that. There's also the policy that goes with that. And then we've got a couple of bits of correspondence. I've given a quick summary of the local government elected members' determination. And so hopefully you've had a chance to read and understand that process. The next part of my paper, and this is where I will invite Mark to talk to, and this was a question that was raised, I think, at the in-between meetings, but felt it would be both good to put it in my report, but actually have a technical expert to come and talk to the questions you might have about this. And so Mark Andrews is here from council. So thanks, Mark, for coming along. And if we deal with this item, and then we can go back to the recommendations in the paper and let Mark get on with his day as well. So Mark, you've helped me pull this together, and a bit of an overview of the Hororata Water Supply. Board members, you've had a chance to read. Are there any questions that you might have now of Mark or I?
I suppose the only comment that I would make is that, due respect, that I thought communications and the PR team helped you put it together, because of the fact that, you know, strong progress, nearly complete, underway, all very nice phrases. But I think the people in the community, especially in the Hororata area that I have spoken to, are looking for some certainty. And I know you can't give the minute and the hour, but at least sort of say August or July or 28 or 30.
Fair point. It's quite difficult to give definitive dates sometimes when we're in negotiations around contracts. So I can give you a bit of an update where we're at, if that's probably. So there's an awful lot of work going on effectively joining the Hororata and Hartley's water supplies. We've done a lot of work, so I'm going to use some fluffy words, I apologise. There's lots of different stages and they're all very different technical requirements, but effectively what we've done is we've constructed a second source at Hartley's, which is right next door to the existing one. We're currently fitting it out with new bore pumps. That was awarded on the 1st of July, and that's going on now. We finished the intake pipe upgrade, so from the sources to the treatment plant. That was done last year, completed. So that's upsizing from a 150 to a 200 mil pipe. And then last year, we also upsized and upgraded the treatment plant at Hartley's. So that's a second UV unit to provide for the additional flow and provide resilience. And we've also done some tweaks around the treatment system there. So that's all sort of at the point where it's ready for commissioning. We can't commission all of that until we've got a consent for moving the take from Hororata up to Hartley's. So this is where it all gets a bit interlinked and exciting around timing, because consents are exciting. That's the right word. And then we've awarded and completed the first 2 kilometre section of trunk main. So the idea is we take more water from Hartley's and we convey it down to Hororata and Colgate. We've laid the first 2 kilometres of pipe down Hartley's Road, and they're just finishing that bit off at the moment. And then they've just started continuing through White Cliffs on the way to Glen Tunnel. That's a 250 mil pipe. Internal bore's a bit smaller. And the idea is that that water will continue all the way down through to Glen Tunnel. The Glen Tunnel section's awarded to be complete by end of June next year. And then there's money in the budget for the following year to extend the pipe from Glen Tunnel through to Colgate, to a new reservoir and pump station at Colgate, and then also down Hororata Road all the way down to Thwaites Road Reservoir, and then effectively linking that section up. So that's 2 years away. We're just going through the final stages of land purchase for the Colgate Reservoir and pump station site. So that's 1,500 cubic metre reservoir, which is a 700% increase in reservoir storage. There's massive amounts there. And then a pump station there, and the idea of that pump station is to be able to move the water around. So we take water when we can, and when water quality deteriorates and we can't, we can move water from our big storage reservoir and pump it around the network, kind of creating an infrastructure grid. So that work's we've got the price. We're just waiting on land purchase, which is a challenging time frame sometimes. So we're working through that, and then we are ready to award that. That work will take about 2 years. So that'll probably start in November with a touch wood somewhere. And then that'll be ready. So by the time the pipe comes past to get there to feed it with water, it'll be ready to go. So kind of making all the bits of the jigsaw puzzle go together. And then there's some other parts of the job which are around upgrading. So on the way through with the pipeline, we're looking at upgrading the supply to Whitecliffs and also to Colgate and to Glentunnel itself. So we're doubling the reservoir storage at each of those townships and also pumping it. So we put a little pump station in, and the idea then is that you've got twice as much storage, so any interruption to supply should hopefully be shorter. We've actually completed the physical fit out of the Whitecliffs pump station. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. It's quite tidy. There's a bit more chip sealing and stuff to do. Yeah, so that's a real progress. The pipe's not there yet, so we're trying to build everything so that when the pipe goes past, off we go. It's worth a lot of money, this job. There's a lot of investment. So it's about breaking it down into little chunks, and that can be difficult to convey sometimes, timing wise.
No, look, thank you for that, and I fully understand the logistical things, but again, I think it's the fact that when the community don't know, it raises the angst. And when you go to flush a toilet and you can't, and then there's 2 or 3 people want to use it, the sort of, and I'm sure everyone's well aware of the practical implications in the households, but it's just perhaps thinking that sometimes, and you never get it right because some people are always going to complain, but sometimes a little bit more information with a little bit of specificity, and even if you overestimate and achieve, and then you can sort of take the credit for getting it done early, it's good.
Yep. We can always communicate better. There's no such thing as perfect communication. We have tried quite hard on this job. We've been out to see the community several times, various different places. So we went to Horata to see the Horata Residents Association. We recently went out to Glentunnel to see the Whitecliffs Community Association. So we are actively trying to communicate and tell the story. Yeah, so yeah, but we can always do better, right?
Sian?
Thank you. I was actually at Glentunnel when you presented to the Whitecliffs Association, and I think the level of information you provided was great. And from that, I was able to then put an update on Facebook for the community to see. So it was wonderful. I have seen the work being done at the Whitecliffs Bridge. I actually went for a little, wasn't actually going to look at that, but I did see what was going on Hartley, so well done. Just one thing which might be outside of this conversation, but I've noticed a lot of conversation recently around the debris that's at the Whitecliffs Bridge and the Glentunnel Bridge. Given the intakes, where the water's coming from, potentially that should get cleaned up. I know there was some conversation around who's responsible for that, but evidence has been provided that previously it was board that did the cleanup. So is that going to impact the performance of those 2 water supplies currently?
Good question. So if we start at the Glentunnel Bridge, that bridge is operated and maintained by NZTA, I believe. So last time the slash, for want of a better word, was cleared, it was done by Cord but subcontracted by Downer under NZTA funding, I believe. So whilst Cord did the work, it was convenient because we were doing work at the intake. The intake's fared pretty good in terms of the physical scour over the last few months. So we won't be going in there to do any emergency repairs like we did last time. They put a lot of boulders in and a tow to try and deflect the water, and that performed really well. We have been considering communicating with NZTA about the slash that's on the upstream side of the bridge because it is of concern. Yeah, so we can make sure we do that.
Thank you. And for the Whitecliffs Bridge?
Again, it's not necessarily part of the water supply component, but we can take that and communicate that appropriately.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lydia?
I could probably touch on the debris and the bridge. So NZTA are aware of the splash build up at the bridge and are going to undertake works to clear that. So yeah, they are notified. So no need to, well, give them a follow up if you want to, but they are aware. And really it was actually just a thanks to Mark because yeah, we rolled you out in Horata and Glen Tunnel, and the time that you actually take to come out to the meetings for community at night time is very much appreciated, and the level of detail that is actually captured as well. So for the likes of Horata, it's captured in their Go Horata minutes, quite a lengthy discussion that you gave the community there. So yeah, I appreciate the work that you do to come out and chat to our community. Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to make any comments further, Mark? Okay. Phil?
Just a question on. It's just a question on.
Oh, is that not working?
No. Just a question on the dry Akron take. That's being to be shut down, similar to what happened to the Horata with the tepid water. The fact that a lot of farmers are using stock water and drinkable water, now that the stock, and they're like doing dairy grazing and everything, the stock drink all the water and then they have no water coming in. That scheme is being shut down quite regularly now for long periods. The only notice they get is that it's shut down. Very rarely do they go when it's going to come back on. For example, of the Grasslands farm down there, there's 9 farms there, staff of 50, 60 staff there. So it's a lot of households that don't know whether they're going to have water. And I know Grasslands truck their own water in if it's going to be shut over a weekend, because every house runs out of water because the stock are taking the water first. So is those ones going to get an upgrade, or is it just the fact that we're living in this potable water?
Yep, so that's on our radar, well and truly. Any surface water take has its challenges. If the river goes dirty, we have some challenges. The right treatment solution is really important. We don't necessarily just need to throw treatment equipment at it, because that's a really expensive outcome when you can manage it in other ways. So the dry Akron's got a treatment plant upgrade. What we're proposing, well, we actually bought the reservoirs. So we bought the reservoirs a year and a half ago, and they're actually sat at our storage facility securely. So we bought 2 700 cubic metre reservoirs, which will become treated water reservoirs up there. And the idea being then is that we can selectively abstract. So when it rains, that catchment's quite flashy. So it's high country, it rains, it runs off, the water quality goes custard, and then it comes back pretty quick. So what we're thinking at the moment is to start with, construct those reservoirs. We're just waiting on a price to come in from our contractor. And then once that's arrived, we'll build those reservoirs, modify the treatment system slightly. We're waiting for a legal agreement. Again, it's a bit like land purchase. It's quite exciting at times. So we're waiting for the power to get in, because at the moment we're running an off-grid power system for the treatment system up there. So we're waiting for a 9 kilometres worth or 6 kilometres worth of power cable to be mole-ploughed in. As soon as that's done, as soon as the reservoirs are built, we're hoping that we'll see a significant improvement in the reduction of conserve water notices, because our consent actually allows us to take 723 cubic metres a day. And if you think about how much that storage is, that's 2 of those. So that'll be a really big improvement. And then there's some money a couple of years out for a treatment upgrade beyond that if we need it. So we want to operate the system with more storage, just reflect on how it's going. And if that's the solution, maybe build another reservoir rather than spend $4 million on a membrane system in the middle of nowhere that costs a load of money to operate and maintain. Just being mindful of that, I guess. But yes, absolutely. It's on our agenda.
If there's no further questions, Mark, I do thank you for your contribution. Again, you're welcome to stay if you wish. Right, we'll move on through the agenda through Steve's report.
Yeah, so two other matters. The next matter also relates to the third recommendation in my report, or a recommendation in my report. And this is in regards to the request to amend the 24-25 budget and to journal some funds across from last year's financial budget into this year. So I've given a quick summary, also attached the correspondence, and I guess happy to have any questions on that. We also then have the matter of the Darfield High School request. So could probably deal with those as two very separate matters, but yeah. So over to you, Mr. Chair. How you want to?
Right, Kelvin, do you want to make any comments on the transfers?
Yeah, excuse me. Okay. So it was mentioned before, there was some $12,000 underspend on last year's budget, 8,000 of which was underspend on travel. So what this initiative is for is to transfer some of that unspent budget, which was for, Sarah mentioned it, for conference training and some general expenses, to transfer it forward to this year, so that this board can spend their budget and not impact, the intention is not to impact the future board's budget, and leave them short, because at the moment they're in a strong financial situation, and thanks to the support of council, and I personally would like to leave it in that position, and that was the objective of transferring this budget, to make sure that we leave their budget in as positive a situation as we can, i.e. a zero budget rather than -30, as we've currently been dealing with.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on that? You haven't got your thing on.
Sorry.
Sorry, John. Right.
Look, I agree, and I just think that in these current economic times, that when there's underspend, the kudos should go to the board and the community for actually being able to achieve what they did within the allocated budget, rather than taking a mindset that, well, we've got an underspend, let's see how we can spend this. And the second point, which is perhaps more relevant, is that, and given finance is not my area of expertise, and I'm not as young as I used to be, but my recollection is that the 28th of June, the board sat here, discussed and agreed a proposed budget, and not once do I recall it being raised that board members were wanting to go to the local government super local conference on the 16th and 17th of July. At the previous year's local government conference, it was clear that the 2025 local government super local conference would be in Christchurch. It was also clear in the public domain that the conference would be over the 16th and 17th of July, some 3 months before our official board meeting on the 28th of June. And here I then discover, after we had worked with the council, and the council had generously agreed to have fairly major accommodations so that we could prepare and have the incoming board after the elections be in a good financial position, there was then a move to have a gathering of certain members of the community board outside our regular meeting on the 3rd of July. And then I see that in the minutes at page 129, at our meeting yesterday of the board, that's the 3rd of July, agreed to recommend that we transfer. I didn't realise there was a board meeting on the 3rd of July, and I was totally gobsmacked that there'd been the recommendation that 2 members would go to the local government conference in Christchurch, when, given the representation review moving West Melton to Springs, I would have thought that the value to the community within the Malvern Community Board area would have been for one member, perhaps board member new, to go to the conference. And I'm quite sure that having a second person go, so I'd be pleased to know the value that was obtained by going, and with two members, and also why wasn't it raised at the 28th of June meeting?
Okay, I certainly agree with some of your points, John. There's no question about that. But I think the thing was, it was originally brought up. We had an interim meeting, as you well know, of which you weren't available for because you were overseas. We had this meeting, and at that stage there was Phil, myself, Sian, and Kelvin there. It came up purely as a recommendation at that time. It was not an official meeting. It was an interim meeting. It wasn't a board meeting. I do believe, though, in some of the things that I would agree with you on this, and I've just asked Steve, if I may, is this the right time to be debating this, or should we leave it until reports?
Well, I guess it's a challenging one. I think if you look at the substance of the recommendation, which is just seeking the transfer of the budget, attendance is not a factor in that decision. And so, but I know it has been brought up in correspondence and certainly in a board member's report. So I think the attendance at the conference could be dealt with separately, but the transfer of the funds should be dealt with in this report where the recommendation is.
Okay, are you happy with that? Because I just believe we've got two separate items here, and I just want to make sure that everybody is clear with what we will be debating. I believe we've got two items here currently. While they may be joined together, there's two separate items. So what I'm considering at this stage, and once we have our reports, we will then debate what you've just brought up, John.
Could I just clarify one of John's points? What I believe is
No, but just if it's relevant, is it relevant to the transferring of the funds?
Yes, it is.
Right.
Very
okay.
relevant. Another reason for suggesting the transfer was that West Melton is actually leaving the Malvern Community Board and is therefore part of the income. So the future board, as of 1st of July, has a massively reduced income, and us as the current board should be spending, as there is 5 members of us, 2 of which are from West Melton subdivision, we should be spending the previous year's budget on our communities for our needs. And that was another reason for transferring that budget. The 8,000 for travel at the moment will be left, and that in that previous budget, because it was the due diligence of our members that meant that we underspent, and that will get locked back in the reserve as far as I understand it. So it won't be available to the new board unless they make an agreement with council to be able to use it. Although, but that was another reason, was because West Melton's leaving, John was mentioning that as well, we should be spending last year's budget, my view is, not this year's budget, because this year's budget is only the new Malvern Community Board income.
Okay, is any further comment on that, that we do take the motion that we transfer the sums at this stage, keeping the other thing that John's brought up aside? Okay, is somebody prepared to move, or we accept that as the Chief Executive's report? I think I'd rather have a separate.
I haven't had a promotion.
Sorry?
I haven't had a promotion, Bruce, but thank you.
All right. Okay, Sian, would you move the motion that we accept the transfer of sums? Okay, is there a seconder to that? Phil, been moved and seconded. Is any further discussion? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Against, carried.
Against.
Okay, that's fine, John. You'll record that. Thank you. We move on to then the Darfield High School prize giving. Anybody want to make a comment on that? We've been approached officially by Darfield High School asking for a donation. They haven't set a figure. What they have said, we either give it to them and let them decide of who they give the donation to or part of, or else we stipulate what area we want that money spent on. So that gives you some guidance at this stage. Lydia.
Can you please tell me what the value of the donation last year was?
As I understood, last year we gave $500. Sian?
I think it's important that we make a decision here today because in our first year of this term, I don't think that decision was made by the previous board and we didn't receive the information. So we missed the ball on that donation that year.
John?
I've got no difficulty with making a decision here today. And my view would be that I believe as $500 was the amount last time, and I can't quite remember, so I'm happy to be corrected, that when we were looking at the proposed budget, there was some discussion, and I would personally be happy with $500 and that the school decide how the prize is to be distributed. I'd have a preference for it to be to at least two persons rather than one person getting 500. And then the school informs us how they're going to award it, and we can just note that accordingly.
Thank you. Is there a second to John's motion?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Sorry?
I can second that motion.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on it? They have also asked, of course, whether we would like to be present. As this board will no longer be in existence, I think it's something that we tell the new board that this is expected of them, that they will be at the prize giving. Move on. Lydia, first.
So I just
No, I'm not going to put the motion yet because I've got other speakers to talk to it.
I just wanted to be clear. So you are recommending that the $500 be split to give to two students?
That's correct.
Across the board.
As I understand, awarded to two individuals. Kelvin?
Just to confirm, it was 500 last year. It's in the financial report.
Yes, that's right. It was.
Yeah,
Yes.
thank you.
Last year, the $500 donation was split between 5 prizes.
Yeah.
That's just information.
So it's been moved and seconded that we grant $500 to the Darfield High School on the recommendation that they distribute that prize according to them. Okay.
Sorry, is it according to how the high school chooses to, is it according to how the high school chooses to split the donation?
That's right. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to put the motion. All in favour, please say aye. Yeah. Against? Carried. Thank you. I think that covers your report. Okay. Lydia?
Yeah, I just want to rewind that. So we said that the $500 is going to be split between two students, so $250 each. But then Sian just brought up that they will do it at their discretion. So
correct.
They are only giving 2 awards out at their discretion. So whatever category that they wish. Students.
Mr. Chair, do you want to restate the motion and then we can revisit the vote? So the motion was that it be split between 2, but we voted on the high school's discretion.
Yes.
So that was a separate, we voted on something different to the motion that was presented.
My understanding, which could be wrong, was that the school's discretion.
That's right.
And that it go to more than one person. Say it will go to 2 persons, but it's at the school's discretion. Yeah. And I wouldn't be opposed to the fact if the school wanted to split it into $50 donations.
As I understand from the principal, when I first spoke to him about this last year, after we had a kerfluffle because we didn't realise that we were expected to make a donation. We did on the finish. We made $500 and it was then left to him or the staff to recommend as to what area they put it to. And if you read the prize givings of eventually, there are a number of different areas of where they awarded money that had been donated to them. So I think all we're saying is that we will be recognised that we have contributed $500 to the Darfield High School to go towards their prize giving. Lydia.
Just wanted to be clear on what we're agreeing to. No. What is the resolution?
The resolution was
Is that it'll go to multiple?
that we donate $500 to the Darfield High School to be used at their discretion for 2 people. That's the way I interpreted the motion. Am I not correct?
Mr. Chair, if it helps, I'm willing to, and I know this isn't quite correct procedure, but let's take a liberty or two or more people, and then it gives the school the discretion. They're getting $500, and as I understand, Board Member New has said that it's good for the school to decide how that's distributed.
Yeah.
So the way you've entered it into the minutes, what is it?
Yes. So Paul's captured the bulk of what your recommendation is, which is that the $500, that's the first amount, so you've agreed that, goes to Darfield High School, we know the location. It's to what degree do you want to give discretion to the school, or do you want to say you want it split to 2 or more people? How important is that for the board? Is discretion enough? Because just trying to keep the recommendation as simple as possible.
Discretion is enough for me.
Sorry, Sean?
The school's discretion is good enough for me.
Yeah.
So if we could then have a recommendation that the Malvern Community Board donates to Darfield High School the sum of $500 to be shared at the discretion of the school.
To 2 people.
No.
Oh.
No. Just at,
Okay.
at the discretion.
Right.
To be yeah.
So
But Paul, you've got
is
that?
that the way you've recorded it?
Yes, that's the way we've got it. So you probably now need to.
And so we don't need to rescind the motion that's already been. We can leave it as such as long as it's recorded correctly in the minutes. Right, we shall move on. The next motion, John?
Just in relation to the attendance, I know Mr. Gibling has put together a bit of a month-by-month action list. May I make the suggestion that you put in there that sometime in November, the board decides who they're going to send to the graduation?
Yeah, probably the easiest way is that we just put that onto the action list because it will be very shortly dealt with.
Yeah. Thank you, John, for that. Okay, if there's nothing further under Steve's report, I'm happy to move that report. Is there a seconder?
Yep.
Thank you, Sean. Been moved and seconded. Do you want to make a comment?
Yes. Could I just make a clarification on your report, Steve? Under the local government elected members determination, could I just confirm that it reflects the current electoral situation and numbers with 1, the Malvern Community Board, and 2, with Selwyn District Council, because the Local Government Commission ruling actually changed the whole numbers everywhere. So it does reflect that correctly, does it?
That is correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Did I put the motion on the finish?
Did it?
I did.
You've done your job.
All right, that's okay. We'll move on then. I must admit, I do apologise because I am having trouble today with not having my correct hearing aids. So I am having trouble. Sorry?
Keep you on for another couple of minutes. How's that?
Steve has generously said he's going to keep me on for another couple of months. So, well, thank you, Phil. I'll pay you later. Right, we'll move on. I feel that brings up that. Chairperson's report. I've got a verbal report here, and Marga said to me, "Do you want me to type it?" And I said, "Well, you won't read it because I can't even read it myself, but never mind." Okay, another month has passed, and I'm pleased to report the board has still been very active. With the elections coming up, 3 of our members are contesting further positions, and I wish them well. The Malvern Community Board is currently anxious on a number of issues, a number of community issues. That is the involvement of the community boards, the involvement in halls, recreations, local transport. It's something that I hope the next community board will take with them as well. We've brought this up and we've spent a lot of time on it. I'm not sure that the council really appreciates yet community boards. But I do think the agenda that we have here and what our 2 members brought back, be it from the community board conference, the new things that central government is looking at, what they are recommending, I think it leads a very good future. Particularly for community boards. I have had a number of people ring me outside our own ward concerning setting up of a community board, and I think that we have laid the foundation stone. The Malvern Community Board has, and I believe quite strongly it will be taken up by other wards. At the beginning of this month, we had the privilege of having the Malaysian embassy ambassadors and the minister to come to Selwyn, and we were basically involved in the running of that event. And I do thank John for really leading that, because he knew personally the minister, and it was a very successful event. There was about 20 odd came. There was also the opportunity of meeting some of the students who are studying here in New Zealand, and the whole afternoon was very well spent. I attended the Residents Association a couple of nights ago at Darfield, and I do congratulate Harvey again for being re-elected. There's some new people on that executive as well, and I congratulate that. I do think I follow from what West Melton does, and really anybody who turns up to the meeting, particularly the annual meeting, they leave their email addresses and they're on the committee. It's as simple as that. And I did suggest that to the Darfield people, but at this stage there was perhaps some trepidation on that. I've already mentioned that Jashawn and Calvin attended the local government, and I am impressed with what you've achieved there, not you personally, but what you've given us of some of the things that were actually discussed there. Again, I think it's being recognised not only in New Zealand, which it has been amongst councils, but hopefully Selwyn will take notice also. I'll just finish up briefly. I've attended the Selwyn District Council and done my monthly presentation. I do apologise that and ask again for our next meetings that delegates or my further board members just give me some ideas of what we've been doing, etc., etc. I apologise, Sian, to you. I had it all written down, what I was going to mention, and I sat down and forgot about it. But I did talk to Therese afterwards, and rest assured, it will be in the minutes of the council. So the Selwyn District Council, the Darfield RA and the West Melton RA, those are the things that I've attended. I believe we have justified our elections and the faith given to us by our community. We've got probably 3 meetings to go. Let's really excel. I shall move my report. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Phil. Discussion? Thank you. We shall move on. Sian, your report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The first item on my report is in relation to community and town halls and their unmonitored alarm systems. This was brought to my attention through one of the employees at the Glen Tunnel store. There's been a couple of occasions in the last month where the fire alarm has gone off, but it is unmonitored, and a member of the community who is a key holder has had to respond to that and been woken up at early hours of the morning to do so. I've been advised today by that person that last week the key was removed from the community member and the council now has it. So if that alarm ever goes off, it's up to the community to now call 111 for the fire brigade to deal with the situation. So I do have an action point in my report, and that is, can the council explore options to upgrade the alarm systems of this hall and any other town halls that use the same or similar system, relying on community members to attend to emergency or not matters around the community halls that are managed and owned by the council. My second item is in regards to Environment Canterbury annual plan. So just reiterating that there is going to be an assist bus to pick up people from West Melton that are left behind during the school term. That started at the beginning of the school term. I also bumped into ECAN Chair Craig Pauling at the LGNZ conference, who advised me that $250,000 had been put aside to invest into exploring alternative options for the Greater Christchurch Partnership, mainly Selwyn. Darfield Jail update. So there's the stuff that's in my report, but there's been other things that have happened since. So Harvey and myself met with Kieran and Craig from SDC to discuss where to put the memorial seat. Since then, Harvey and I have met with Sam Wilshire, who will be assisting us with the project and establishing the foundation for the memorial. And we've also visited Firth, who will be donating the concrete for the project. So that's progressing nicely, and we're still looking at being able to achieve an opening date of September the 11th. I have in my report about the Darfield High School prize giving, which we've already addressed. My report on the LGNZ conference. And because I put my report through before the month ended, I do have a few more items. So I attended the Darfield AGM also. I have a little bit of pride in that group, given we had to hold 2 town halls to just establish a committee for that. So to have them have their second year AGM has been fantastic. The secretary, Liz Hamilton, is stepping down. I also attended the council meeting last week. The winners of the Darfield High School Year 9 Sustainability Project presented to council. I was approached during the break by the 2 ECAN councillors that were in attendance, the Deputy Mayor and a reporter from Ashburton News who are interested in the project. ECAN would like for the students to take their proposal to their August meeting. There was no Malvern Community Arts Council meeting this month. The next meeting will be in August. Also attended the Sister City presentation at Darfield Library. I've addressed the community concerns regarding the debris at the White Cliffs and Glentunnel bridges. And that's my report. I move it.
Move it. You so move.
Yes, I move my
Is there
report.
a seconder? Thank you, Lydia. It's been moved and seconded. Just a couple of things I'd like to make comment on was that your students attended, or the Darfield students attended last meeting, which I was at. And I must admit, these two young boys, they were only in year 9, I think, aren't they? Year 9, I thought what they presented was quite remarkable. It was basically looking at getting more vegetation of native between Darfield and here and other
Kuwait.
surrounding areas, you know, to attract native birds. And when I first sort of thought, oh, you know, that's what are we getting ourselves into? But the preparation that they had done, they'd done a lot of work on it. So I thought it was an excellent presentation. I really do, and several councillors made the same comment. So, you know, whoever coached them, I did meet the teacher, and whether he had a lot of coaching or whether the boys put the ideas up and then they gave a presentation, they certainly need to be congratulated on. And Sian, if you had anything to do with it, even if you were the judges, I think it was nice that the community board was involved by asking a community board member to actually take part in it.
Thanks, Bruce. Can I just mention that there was actually 4 people in that group, although only 2 boys presented to council. One of them was overseas and one of them was injured. So I just want to acknowledge that there were 4 members of the group.
Okay, appreciate that. Is there anybody wants to make any other comments? If not, I'll put the motion that we accept Sian's report. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Move on. Calvin.
Okay, yeah, most of my report is about the Local Government New Zealand conference, but I'd just like to preempt that with a bit of verbal. On the, verbal report, that sounds only bad, doesn't it? On the 8th of July, the group of community members that went to Ubitsu to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Ubitsu agreement, they were ex-community board members and people that established the agreement in the past. Normally, we would send community board members, but the current members were all unable to travel for various reasons. So this is, let's just have here. This is the 20th anniversary plaque, 25th anniversary plaque that they gave us. We did give them a engraved plaque that was planted alongside a tree, that they provided the tree, we provided the plaque, and we sent them some photographs to sell in. Pardon? Oh, and it's called Malvern Park as well. So there's a place in Ubitsu called Malvern Park. So that's really awesome. And the agreement with Ubitsu is with Malvern Community Board. It's not with Selwyn District Council. And that sort of clarifies what John was trying to clarify as well. So we need to keep that going for the future. And there is a part of our budget allows for sister cities contributions. So this plaque that they presented us with is going to be sitting in Darfield Library in one of the cabinets there. And so I just to let everybody know that's happening. And that's the plaque we got. And I mustn't drop it, otherwise I get in real trouble. So that was a very successful trip. We went to 8th of July, myself, Sian and Bruce attended their update. They came back and they updated us on that trip as well as some other international events that the sister cities are supporting and working through. So they are a separate group to the Malvern Community Board and they have a lot of international relationships. And myself and Bruce sit on the Sister Cities Committee. Okay, to the local government conference. I attended with Sean, and we attended two different. There was two groups of breakout sessions where myself and Sean covered as much information as we could. So a lot of changes being thrown at us as local government at the moment by the government. You probably can hear it, most of it in the press, but it was really good to be there and to understand what's going on and why the government are doing things, a bit like the development contributions changing to development levies. We need to know about it as soon as possible and start acting on it and supporting it. One thing I got big time from that was the CBIC committee, which is the Community Board's Executive Committee of Local Government New Zealand. Since last year's conference, when we were fighting for the community to maintain the community board, because that's what they told us they wanted. This year's conference, they've actually produced a document which is called a Framework for Councils and Community Boards. It's an awesome document. It's attached to the minutes, so you can look at it online and stuff electronically. They've even got in this document which tells councils and community boards how to work together. There's even a document that says the relationship accord between the ex-council and the Y community board. So that's a draft document that we can use, and we can get in the future, we can get council and any future community boards, not just Malvern Community Board, to sign up very quickly and easily and work together. So that was a real achievement by going there. I had an enormously long discussion with them. Obviously, this CBIC committee are an awesome group of people, and they supported us last year's conference when we were going through a consultation. So I got a lot of value out of it personally, but also I believe for the community as well. Finally, I'd just like to mention that the two most mentioned words at the conference were one, AI. That's pretty obvious because everybody's talking AI at the minute. And the other one was Selwyn. Because so many people were asking questions from Selwyn. I was, including me, I'm sorry. I didn't say I was from Malvern Community Board. I said it was from Selwyn. Steve was probably in the room at that time. But a lot of other councillors who were there from Selwyn were actually asking questions and mentioning Selwyn. So much so that some of the other people at the conference got fed up and said, I'm not from Selwyn and I'm asking a question. So I think it's good. We're out there. We increased our profile, but I'm not sure everybody was that happy about it as being the fastest growing region in New Zealand. So that's my report. I'd like to move it as read. Yeah, I'll move it.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you for discussion. Sorry. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. It's been carried. It's now open for discussion. I actually had an orange line under the word Selwyn too. I just wondered whether that was complimentary or derogatory. But obviously it was, they were asking positive questions towards where Selwyn is, I guess.
I'm not sure how to comment on that, Bruce, but we raised the profile of Selwyn as the fastest growing region in New Zealand because we were asking lots of questions of local government New Zealand. But they weren't asking questions of us. They were getting annoyed because we kept asking too many questions.
Yeah, because I must admit at last year's conference too, we got asked a lot of questions re-Selwyn, and I just wondered whether that was the capabilities of the people that we were sending to this conference or whether or not they were generally interested in Selwyn. But obviously it went very successful, and I do thank you. Any further comments? John?
I would just like to say that I think that the information put out by the Community Boards Division of the Local Government New Zealand surprised me in a pleasant way. And at page 172 of the agenda, I'm heartened by the everything in Model 2 plus Model 3, which basically I think reflects, and I think they may have plagiarised it from the direction of this board, that what we're looking for with the council, and hopefully the new board will continue, we're looking for a recognition of formal decision-making powers so that we're not just a tack on and seen as a waste of time. Then they go on to say that community boards should have strategic oversight of services and investments, obviously in the ward that they're in. And again, I think that reflects the progress that this board has made. And where this board has done exceptionally well, and the local government in New Zealand has really hit the nail on the head and been quite astute, that there's deep embedded community relationships between the board and the community in the ward they serve, and which we're in the process of struggling through, but I believe that we've probably made progress. There are broad, clearly delegated authorities. And I think that really on those 2 pages, 172 and 173, and I would like to get feedback, and I know it's been included in the agenda, but I would like to hear from my fellow board members whether pages 172 and 173 should be reproduced in the minutes as an official record of where the board is looking to go.
Thank you, John. I know I've read through this as well, and it's just interesting that I've marked that. It's also, in fact, I put a big tick beside it.
Great minds think alike, I think.
On page 172, I've put a big tick there because I think it's what we've been emphasising as a board as to how we see what the community board can actually do to your communities. So, John, we can take that as a motion before I put this motion, or a recommendation as part of it, that you wish that to minute it.
Yeah, I'll move that the agenda pages 172 and 173 be included in the official minutes of this board meeting.
And I'm happy to second that motion. Is anybody in disagreement? Everybody in favour?
Yep.
If so, well, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. If there's nothing further to the motion now that is before us to accept Calvin's report, I will put it. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Move on. Phil, you've got a verbal report.
Yeah, no, sorry. I went on my holiday and came back with a little friend, dengue fever, which has laid me up for about a month. But now I'm back on it. So I haven't actually attended many of the local groups, just because I haven't been up to it. But moving forward, just one big disappointment that's coming out or coming through from council and people I'm meeting is the high turnover of staff. And there seems to be a bit of a disillusion with we seem to be getting very good people in there, and they're only lasting a very short period of time and then moving on, which seems to be, we try and build a relationship in the community with them, get something started, and then they're gone, which is, yeah, just quite disappointing to be spending a lot of time building relationships up to then lose them. So yeah, no, that's pretty much me. I'll move that.
So you move the report, or a second of Phil's report. Sian, it's open for discussion. Any discussion on it? All right, I shall put the report. John?
Again, not getting into operational, but just from a governance point of view, I think that high turnover is sort of not good for anyone. And I have heard similar, feedback from the community that, and just looking at the number of jobs that are advertised, and many of them don't seem to stay long, but I won't go any further than that.
Okay, thank you. If there's no further discussion, I will put the verbal report. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. So, John, we move on to your report.
Thank you. And I think the feedback that I'm getting, and remembering that one of the things of the community board is that we're here to engage with the public and then to bring back and advocate for the public, that it seems as though the rates increase has been purportedly presented as 14.2%. I'm yet to find anyone that has had an increase of 14.2% or less. And there are a couple of examples there on page 178 of the agenda, ranging from sort of 16.3 through, and at the weekend I was speaking to someone and they had a rates increase of 23%. And remember, this is on top of a rates increase of between 15 and 20% last year, and a projected increase of another 15, which is probably going to be 20 to 25%, unless there's a dramatic change in councillors in October. So growth must pay for growth, not ratepayers. And the presentation that we had earlier, I think, showed that the council is hopefully aware and will be acting, and I know there's changes ahead, but I think the biggest danger we can say is let's wait, let's wait. I think there needs to be a degree of urgency when people are having to make decisions about selling their family homes and moving out of Selwyn because they just can't afford the increasing rates. Connections to the wastewater system, that there was a targeted rate in Darfield for an investigation of the wastewater system. I believe that that has stopped being levied, but there may have been an amount of money accumulated that hasn't yet been spent. And my understanding is that the targeted rate was for an investigation. So it would be interesting to hear back at some stage as to how much money is that targeted rate collected and not been spent, and what further investigation, and if that could be noted, please. Mr. Gibbling.
Well, we've noted that for an action point to come back to a future board. I think it'd be very good to understand the criteria associated with the targeted rate, and I know we've shared information in previous board meetings about this very matter, so we'll just keep building on that advice. But I appreciate the questions.
Thank you. And then the other interesting thing is the cap on rates, that there seems to be a diversity of opinion. Some of the literature that you read shows that despite claims in the press here in New Zealand, where they're saying it hasn't worked in Australia, namely New South Wales and Victoria, quite clearly show that rates caps have, for some councils, because it's not a one size fits all, worked, that residents have benefited from greater transparency and more prudent financial management when the rates cap is in place. And naturally, it's not a silver bullet, but when paired with reform, it motivates effective service reviews, assets planning, and most importantly, it's effective in shifting council's culture if the culture of the council needs to be shifted. So, wider matters of interest. As the chair said, was fortunate enough to host the Honourable Teresa Kok from the Malaysian Parliament, and she's vice chair of the Malaysian Parliament Public Accounts Committee, which is very similar to our Audit and Risk Committee of the Selwyn District Council, and they take an overview of all the parliamentary and government spending in Malaysia. So it was nice that we were able to attend, and as you can see, the function was well attended, and the only slight dampener on the whole thing was, what was it, 6 o'clock, we were ordered out, and...
No, it was actually 5 o'clock.
5 o'clock, oh.
It was 5 o'clock, John.
5 o'clock we were ordered out, and that was just when the party was starting to go, just when people had started made connections and were having interesting conversations, and there was absolutely no room for negotiation. But I admit I didn't have the manner and status of the chair, So maybe if the chair had known about it, we could have stayed longer. The local writers did a very good book launch, and that was well attended. And then moving on to the annual plan, I think I can't remember how many times it's been brought to my attention, but together we're delivering, together we're achieving, together we'll make this work was really a great slogans from the communications PR team at the council. Community halls is an ongoing issue, and I'm looking forward to the fact that my last recollection was that sometime around about September, and I'd be very disappointed if my term on the board, which finishes at the end of September, I don't get an update or the board doesn't get an update, but I'm sure with Mr. Gibling's hand at the wheel that won't happen. Attended a meeting in relation to the Kirwi Hall and the AMP Association, and that's sort of a work in progress. So I think it's appropriate to say that obviously I'll get back to the people concerned, and especially the Kirwi Hall Committee, and then hopefully at the next meeting we can provide more information. In relation to the mix of the fact that it's a rural community, and it's not an easy question, but there does seem to be a mismatch that I can understand when you've got a council-controlled organisation that you want to try and give them as much business as possible, but they should be delivering, and I'm not saying they're not delivering, but they should be delivering in a cost-effective and a competitive manner. And it was nice to see that there was a procurement senior position advertised in the last round of positions, because, and I know that work is being done, that when you're servicing a large area, to have someone drive for 2 hours, arrive and have morning tea, do 2 hours work, have lunch, another 2 hours work, afternoon tea, and then drive back may not be as effective when you've got people in the area willing and able to do the work and put in a full 8 hours, and we're not paying vehicle travel and mileage allowance. So I think there's probably some discussion that I'm receiving. I'd like to see the council get the correct mix between service delivery strategy and use of local contractors, because the reports that I've had are that, and I can understand why council may have preferred contractors, but if preferred contractors are outside the area, that has a detrimental effect to trying to get the economic growth. And I definitely don't subscribe to the fact that Selwyn wants to keep being the fastest growing district. If it's going to be the fastest growing district, it should be prepared for it. And I think this comes up with the fact that looking at the new subdivisions in West Malvern and also in Darfield, where there's likely to be 1,000 odd houses, I think that, and it would be good to have some feedback at probably the September meeting, or maybe the October meeting, in relation to the fact that the strategy, my understanding is that both Darfield High School has now, that Darfield High School has put an enrolment scheme in place, and that it's at capacity. So with 1,000 houses and an extra 300 secondary school students, or 200, and also the primary school, and I know we've got the area that our health services are stretched, but I do think that some planning, that if we're going to continually have subdivisions going through, and I know we can't always stop the growth, but we can at least manage the growth, that we need to make sure that people that move into these places have the ability to send their children to school locally. And in relation to public transport, and it's good that in Sian's report that the ECAN and the local shuttle service are looking at providing a cost-effective service for the locals. So the Malvern Community Vehicle Trust have undertaken a survey, and they are, I believe, starting a trial from the 1st of August, that on a Tuesday, the first and the third Tuesday, the shuttle goes Darfield, Kirwee, West Melton and Hornby, and on the second and fourth Tuesday, it goes Darfield, Kirwee and Rolleston. And I suppose the surprising thing to me about the survey was that, as far as the people who completed the survey, they weren't really interested in Rolleston. Their primary destination was Hornby. And I think this goes too to some of the planning at both ECAN and the council, that those bureaucratic bodies may be Rolleston centric, but I think most of the community in Malvern anyway identify more with Hornby than they do with Rolleston. And then it would be appreciated to have an update on the mountains to the sea cycle route, because that's a issue, especially in parts of the district where people are saying there was great fanfare, but it sort of seems to have dried up, and there's fairly major implications about the costs, the proposed costs and what have you. And I know Councillor Glidden has previously updated the board, but it would be good to have an update for the members, especially of the Arthur's Pass community. Thank you.
John, you also brought up something under the finance thing in regards to the two persons who went to the local government. I want you to bring that up now under your report, and then we can debate that at that stage. Just briefly, please.
Of course, Mr. Chair. I'm not known for verbosity. Yeah, I suppose, neutrally put, I have a little bit of a concern about the process. As I said, the conference was available. It was public knowledge that it was going to be in Christchurch on the 16th and 17th of July for the last 4 months. No mention was made at the June Community Board, and we were looking at finances, conference attendance, training. And then all of a sudden, within a few days after the board meeting, there's an urgent desire for people to attend the conference. And again, I have no difficulty with people attending the conference, and not at a personal level, but looking at it organisationally, I can understand that people in West Melton may feel a little bit aggrieved that they were moved through to Springs and they want to try and get value, but I'm sure that they will get value between now and the end of this board's term. But I just can't see why 2 people had to go, especially when one of them won't be with the board's area in the next election. And I'd just like some discussion and maybe some clarification as to the benefits.
Okay, before I ask for any discussion on this matter, can I have the seconder to John's report so we can discuss it? Thank you, Phil. It's been moved and seconded. Right, it's open for discussion now. Sian.
Thank you. In regards to the rates increase, I actually had somebody contact me today for that very reason, because their rate was, I think, 15.25% increase. So I personally would like to understand why the increases have been higher than what was projected. In relation to the targeted rate for investigation into sewage, was that in relation to the health officer investigation into the septic tanks and surface water?
I believe so.
Steve?
Okay, thank you. Around the growth stuff, sorry, just a moment. I might have to come back to that. Sorry, I forgot what that was about. I wrote minimal notes. And in relation to the public transport stuff, I too have been receiving from people that they'd prefer to go to the city or Christchurch as opposed to Rolleston. And I think, you know, with Hornby having sort of everything in one place, that's more desirable, whereas Rolleston still has a lot of things that aren't available to people. That might change once Pack and Save's in, who knows. But that was just my feedback in regards to your report, John.
Right, is there any further discussion on any matters? The other matter then is what John has brought up, re the attendance. It has happened, it has been done. I believe, quite frankly, we've learnt a very important lesson from it. And what I would recommend, and I've already talked to Steve about this, is that for future conferences, for future learnings, that we make sure that it's on the agendas and it is brought up accordingly. So I really don't want to debate this today. I don't think it's relevant. However, if the two people want to make some comment, we will listen to them. Kelvin.
Yeah, I'd like to agree with you, Bruce, that some learnings have been made from this situation, and that in the future it should be clearly identified when the spending is to be made and why. I'd just like to clarify in this situation, the process we followed for approval recommendation was almost exactly the same as we did for last year's conference in Wellington. The only difference was that the conference was a month earlier. My assumption was it was August, and I apologise for that and not picking it up, because I thought that would be great if it's in August, because that means that we could then have a confirmed list of candidates for the future.
Just talk to the board, please.
So we'd have a confirmed list of candidates for the future, and then we'd know about who we're actually investing in, potentially.
Thank you.
So we're currently, Friday is, we will find out who is standing for re-election and in what areas. So it could be at large, it could be just for Malvern, it could be just for Springs. So that's my main point, is that process. We've followed the same process as last year for the conference in Wellington, where we had 3 members apply. And for this year, we had 2 members went along, and the costs involved were significantly less because there was no travel costs. And
could I just conclude the debate there? I don't think we're arguing about that. I think what we're talking about is the time that it was presented to us. It was not done at the right time, and the recommendation I'm saying, and Steve has agreed to this, that for future community boards, you don't bring it up basically when we haven't got a meeting. I think the point is we've learned a very valuable lesson from this, and I certainly won't see it hopefully repeated. Sian.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I remembered what I was going to say around the growth stuff and the communications. So I think I've raised this very, very early in my term on the board. I noticed that a lot of the developers were selling or trying to utilise the fact that there were schools and a medical centre and other things out in Darfield, specifically the Darfield Estates website. And my concern was that that wasn't necessarily true, that the developers were potentially selling information to potential buyers that wasn't accurate. So I'm not sure if the council has any ability to have an influence on whether the developers can sell things that actually are unavailable or not. But I agree that is a big concern with the growth out here, is that we don't have the facilities and amenities to cater to the growth.
Thank you. If there's no further discussion on John's report, I will put the motion that it be accepted. All in favour, please say aye. Against, carried. Thank you. Councillor Glidden. Lydia.
So I can give you a quick wee update on the state highway speeds and the conversation that happened at council last Wednesday. And so the discussion is that Selwyn District Council does support the Selwyn District Council does support the endorsement of the letter as such. The discussion was around the lowering of speeds in the townships, and as a whole they endorse that. So that allows us to actually have that discussion and proceed onwards, but actually all members, because without the endorsement, effectively we can't really be having the discussion with NZTA saying that Selwyn District Council supports this without the discussion happening at council. So I'm pleased that the discussion has happened. It has turned into the fact that council will actually write a letter with some additional areas in their letter, but I'm going to send my letter anyway. I got what I needed, which was Selwyn District Council support, and even if I hadn't, I was still going to send it anyway and remove the Selwyn District Council part of it. But now that that is okay to council, I'll just send that, and council will send their letter as well with further additions to it. The other thing I had in there was just the local alcohol policy, just to point out some changes that have happened. And I was pleased to sit on that, and I think we've come up with a really good, clear policy that is easy for people to understand and also to operate. So the changes are there. I won't read them out to you. They are written if you would like to look at them. And the back to basics was just a bit of food for thought around the discussion that had happened at LGNZ, and something that I'm particularly thinking about at the moment and how we move forward with changes at Selwyn District Council. And then the coming up, a few interesting points for people there. And just to note that with the Upper Selwyn Huts, the deliberations on the 22nd and 21st of August, depending how much time we need. And the final decision will be going to council on the 17th of September. So that would be the last council meeting that will come to. Other than that, I'm happy to take any questions, but I'll take everything else as read.
Sure.
Thank you. I guess it's just in relation to the state highway speed letter. We as a board, are we going to consider endorsing either Lydia's letter or the council's letter?
Calvin,
Yeah, that was my question.
would the board consider, if Councillor Glidden is agreeable, that there be a separate letter in relation to the Malvern Community Board area that the board would endorse? Would somebody like to move that, Sian?
Yeah, I'd like to move that. I think I agree with what I've seen from Lydia's draft that she circulated to the rest of us, that the communities impacted would like the same thing as what was requested in Lydia's letter.
Do I have a seconder? Any discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Motion approved that the letter be sent. Thank you.
Great. No other questions?
So,
I'll move it. I'm
you-
happy to move my report.
seconder, Calvin, all those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Would we need to discuss who was going to write the letter? I suggest that we grab pieces out of Lydia's already formed letter and potentially run with that if the board's willing to do that. There's not really any point reinventing a wheel.
So when's the letter due?
I'm going to send mine very shortly.
So this is not part of a consultation, I believe.
There's no consultation. This is this is just a request to start work on a review.
So there's no time frame. We could either do something in the August meeting, or we can agree to approve a letter via email.
Given that NZQTA are looking at doing something in July, would a way forward be that, would somebody be prepared to reformat on the board's letterhead, so to speak, the letter from Lydia, circulate that to the board for the board's approval, and then undertake to get that away, say, by the 10th of August.
I'd be happy to do that. Yes, we have. People, could you just note that in action for us in the minutes, please?
Okay, look, I apologise for leaving the room, but it was a matter there that I had to talk desperately to those two people. So you've moved your report. It's been finalised. Thank you. That's right. So we move on to the next lot of business. Hey?
General business.
Yeah, general business. Now we've already mentioned two items.
Sorry, I have
One from Calvin, one from Sean.
I have another item to add, and that's the safer speeds consultation. We had an action item for the board in our previous minutes to submit on that, and we discussed it at our interim meeting also.
So what was the outcome of the interim meeting?
Sorry, Sean, I didn't actually hear it. I'm sorry.
The safer speeds consultation that Selwyn District Council is running at the moment. We discussed in our previous meeting and agreed that we were going to provide a submission on that. At our interim meeting, we looked at it and we identified that there was only one area in Malvern that was going to be impacted by it. I don't remember or recall if we agreed on a recommendation. Calvin, do you know?
Lydia, do you want to answer that question? Because at this stage, were you wanting submissions or not on the speed? On this is referring back to
Very different. They're two different things.
yeah.
One's a letter to NZTA, and the other is a consultation
Correct.
by SDC for safer speeds on
Yep.
the Selwyn District Council controlled roads.
Right. You want to make a comment?
You asked me to make comment, and so, yeah, they are very separate.
I know, but I mean, at this stage, I'm more in favour of sending a submission if it's the appropriate thing to do for far as the community board's concerned.
Are you talking about the NZTA or are you talking about the safer speeds?
Sean?
This is in relation to the safer speeds consultation that Selwyn District Council are running.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should.
So this is in relation to the speed limit on Kimberley Road being extended out further past the new subdivision, as I believe it's currently 60k, and they want to bring it down to 50. I don't think we came to an agreement.
Can I just clarify? No, we didn't come to an agreement at the interim meeting. We just listed the roads that were involved, and we established there was just the one in Darfield, isn't it? Oh, there's West Mountain, there's two.
Yep.
Was that correct, John? Yeah. So we just established that they were there and that we would consider it officially through this meeting because we had time. It's not due until the 6th of August. So we still have time to, it wasn't like the RMA package 1, 2 and 3, which were finished on Sunday night.
Yeah, could I suggest at this stage then that we agree in principle that we make a submission and that each member, Sean, are you happy to collate?
Yes, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, if you're happy to collate, I think we should, as Calvin rightly said, it's not due until the 6th of August, I think, isn't it? You're right. So can we take it from then? We agree that we're going to make a submission and I'll have a motion along that line. And that if you're happy, Sean, that you collate it and just keep in touch with everybody so that I don't want it lumped on you that you're the only one that's going to do any work.
Could we do it this way? Can we move a motion that we support the speed reduction for Kimberley Road from 60 kilometres to 50 kilometres?
I'll second that.
Okay, the motion's before you. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Thank you.
My understanding is it's just a tick the box on the form, so I don't think it needs to come back to the board.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
But as far as the other one is, if you can collate,
The other one's a letter and I'll circulate that. Yeah.
and keep in touch.
Thank you.
Okay, can we move back then to Calvin? You raised three issues. Have any of those been answered, or do you wish to proceed?
Speak consultation answered, so I've just got one left.
What happened to my pen?
The RMA
He's got it.
consultation. The RMA consultation is due in on the 17th of August for package 4, which is called Going for Housing Growth. So I understand that we, as a board, we should decide whether we're going to submit, and if we are going to submit as a board, we should decide who organises it and sets it up and circulates it for the board. So it's 17th of August.
John? John?
I would suggest that Calvin could probably do the groundwork and circulate it. I'd have a preference for the fact that the board get it at least 7 days prior to the closing date and guarantee a 48-hour return so that the responses can be collated and a truly board submission can go in.
Are you happy with that, Calvin?
I was just going to ask you, do you want me to accept it? Yes, no, I'm fine with that. That suits my timeframes at the moment. So yes,
Okay.
I'll sort of get a draft out and then we'll circulate it. We're going to, what did
Okay.
you say, 7 days before?
Yeah, well, it just
Okay.
means that I like to get things and have 48 hours to look at them.
Yeah.
And then no doubt whoever's doing the submission
Okay.
would like 3 days to.
By the 10th of August. Okay, yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're happy with that? Is that the only thing that you?
That's the only thing.
That's right, fine. John, you wanted to bring up something, but has that been covered?
Oh, no, you've got my little
Oh,
presents.
no, I'll do that in a minute.
No, the subdivisions have been covered and,
Okay. All right, so if there's nothing further, I've got one item here to bring up. We've had this presented to us from the Malaysian ambassadors, and it's a matter that I'll pass it round and let you have a look at it. And so we'll decide about it at a later stage. There we are. So is there any further general business? Is there any further matters? If not, I thank board for, sorry, John,
we've got a September meeting.
sorry?
We have a September meeting.
Yes, we have. Yes, there'll definitely be a September meeting. And also we'll have one in August and September.
Sorry, I do have
And
one.
an interim meeting. Do you want to set a date for that now? For an
Yes.
interim meeting?
Yes.
Okay, right. Would you like to give us some dates then, please?
Yeah, I'll get to that. Potentially the 7th of August.
Yes, the month of August.
Yes, the 7th.
7th?
Which is a Thursday.
Yeah, that would be,
Was there a potential to combine it with
sorry, Calvin?
we've got a combined RA meeting, I believe, in August.
Yeah.
And I don't know which date that is. Yeah.
That's,
That's the 14th.
Could we
John?
combine it with that, i.e. before or after, or would that be confusing? And maybe
What
we
was
should
the
keep it
date for
separate?
the combined? 1/4, yeah, that's right. Yes.
oh, the 14th.
That's the evening of the Sheffield board meeting. So I don't know, I would assume that many on the board may want to go to the Sheffield board. So maybe we could take change the combined community board and residents.
To the, what date, sorry? The microphone's off.
Sorry.
Do we push the combined RA meeting out to the 21st?
Yep.
What
No.
dates you talking about?
The 21st, Thursday, the 21st, for the combined community board meeting RAs.
Or we bring it forward to
So
the
that's
7th.
shifted now from the 14th.
Well, that means because the Sheffield Pool have their updating meeting on the 14th at 6:30.
So we're transferring that one to the 21st.
If we did it on the 7th, that's within the 14-day timeframe that we agreed that we'd like to be able to communicate. But it seems to be the most ideal date, the 7th of August.
I personally feel that 7th is just a little tight, that if we're going to change the RA meeting, my preference would be to move it forward a week to the 21st.
Can we have some dates, please?
I'm happy with
So
the
that we can get
21st. I'm happy with the 21st, and if we could do our interim meeting prior to, that would be great. On the same date for our interim.
21st is the combined,
Usually starts at 7:30.
7:30.
We could do 6.
See you, Fred. Have we got some dates finalised yet?
Yes. 6 p.m. for our interim meeting.
Sorry?
So the 21st,
Yes.
6 p.m. for our interim, and then 7:30 for our combined after it.
Okay,
The Darfield Library,
you've all agreed on that, hey?
Darfield Library.
Yeah, Darfield Library.
Yep.
Okay, all in favour?
Aye.
Right. Against? Carried. Okay, again, very many thanks.
People,
Sian?
would you please be able to organise booking the library from 6 p.m. for that date? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kelvin, do you want to say something more? You just reminding me. Okay, well, if that's a lot, I thank you very much, board members, for what you're doing. Just keep up the good work. To our public, thank you for coming. We look forward to your attendance. We really do. Steve and people, thanks also for your contribution. Okay, I declare the meeting closed.